today. We really do appreciate it. This will be the third community input meeting on the Clark Park pool and park amenities concept plan. So we're really excited as we've seen this come to life for us. We've been able to work with you throughout this process and have thoroughly enjoyed it with engaging the current stakeholders and folks that may use the park afterwards. Again, we're really looking forward to your feedback. We do appreciate the time that you've taken out of your day to participate in this process. And again, looking forward to continuing this project all the way through construction. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Brandon with the DIG team, and he's going to take us through all of the comments we've received over the past 2 public meetings and how we've evolved to get to this concept plan that we'll be taking forward. So Brandon, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Sean. And yeah, echo Sean's sentiment. Appreciate the time today. Appreciate the time the last couple of meetings as well, and all of the thorough responses that we've received on this project. It's been great to see. Like Sean mentioned, we've come to a point of understanding kind of goals and program at the very early kind of meeting. To last meeting, we were looking at multiple concepts for both the overall kind of park concept plan as well as the aquatic design. From there, we gathered comments, had presented to multiple kind of stakeholders and committees through the city of Tempe. And today, like Sean said, we're excited to show you kind of progress on the overall park and offer another kind of point of feedback. So with that, we'll jump into concept plan development. Just as a refresh, this is where we were. I believe the meeting was back in November. We had kind of 2 overall, call them park master plan, park framework plans to look at and discuss, and received a number of comments on each. Really overall kind of positive feedback on 1, the pool coming back into the park. 2, just a general appreciation of the garden living. Whether moved or not moved, just having a place for that to kind of live on past these improvements. Looking at the community hub, there was a lot of discussion about this idea of kind of gathering, bringing program together and how that can help kind of facilitate that creation of community. And I think that was a really nice kind of response to that plan that we wanted to bring forward. From a programmatic standpoint, in both options, having the play centrally located was a very positive feature. That idea of it being perhaps a little bit more compressed in the center was good feedback as well. The option or looking into kind of relocating the sport courts over on the west side and creating kind of a sports hub to activate that west side. And activate the new restroom that's over there and the existing ramada that's over there. All of those things received very positively as well. With the Great Lawn option, there was a lot of discussion about how, people felt events could happen within this place. Talks of, the farmers market comebacks or any type of kind of community movie nights, that type of thing. They really felt that this was a strong concept in terms of creating that great community space. And so we took kind of feedback from both groups to influence progress forward, as well as looking at kind of other concept plan considerations. Obviously, budget's always a consideration. Whenever we're a consultant and a teammate of the city, one of the kind of highest priorities is how we spend our funds wisely. And that goes kind of overall park-wide, so from play to the garden to the pool facility to trying to maximize the amount of rec center space. What master plan option or overall kind of framework allows us to get the best value. And so as we looked at that, it was well received that the kind of the aquatics north of the garden seemed to make some sense. It also triggered some things within the park in terms of moving sport courts day one, increased potential utility kind of hookup cost that started to become a negative, and there started to become some positives associated with the pool kind of in its original or southeast corner. The other thing we looked at is kind of long-term planning. So beyond just what's out there today, what's out there in 5 years, thinking of the park and how it lives, 20, 30 years from now. Are we using this time to really solve the problems of the park, of the current park, in terms of the existing infrastructure out there, the fact that there is kind of that existing, pool shell still in the ground, and is it more appropriate to solve some of those problems today, so that we really create a great framework for the park to grow into the future. Thirdly, this site sensitivity. I believe we discussed this in previous community outreach meetings, but the park is within an area of archaeological interest. So we took an analysis of how much kind of native or undisturbed areas would be disturbed within each option. Obviously, if the pool started shifting more towards the center of the park, that would be kind of complete native excavation, where if we kept it more to the southeast, we would be disturbing areas that had already been previously disturbed, which could be to some benefit. And then finally, looking at access, it's something that's been brought up within various outreach forums as just kind of a common topic of conversation. With this program comes need for some additional parking that comes with it. And so how do we do that with the minimal amount of impact to green space? We never want to sub parking for park. And so we look to do that, and we'll have a slide where we'll get into some detail on that. But we look to do that on the edges where parking already exists. And so when you think about where parking already exists, and then what those entry experiences are for, the aquatics and for the recreation center, it obviously suggests that weighting those kind of building uses to the southeast makes sense, because that's where the current parking is weighted. So all of these things, along with community outreach comments, factored into kind of preferred concept plan going forward, which you'll see right here. And so what this did is we tried to take kind of the best of all the comments, which is ideally, which I always try to do when you have outreach and go through these different things. But what you can see is the Aquatic Center is located now back on the southeast corner. And so what that does is allows us to replace and fold that infrastructure that's existing today and create a new aquatic facility that will have a lifespan well into the future, and kind of create this marker on the corner that once was. The difference in this scheme from the previous is the recreation pool house now runs east-west on the north side. So while it's adjacent to the south and open south to the pool, it also creates a wonderful kind of open facade to the park. And we felt that this breathing room allowed for this interaction of indoor-outdoor spaces, plaza spaces along the recreation center that could engage the various court uses that exist today, future community lawn spaces, and then also the garden that's would become an anchor up to the north. And speaking of the garden, so that location, in a way, kind of bookends this community lawn. And so this community lawn's framed and starts to create this idea of the community hub, but in space. So you have the lawn as kind of the central space, the garden to the north, the rec center to the south, and then the playground kind of centrally located within the park, but framing it to the west. And really, we see this. It's been great working with the garden. We've had some stakeholder meetings with them currently, and we'll continue to involve those stakeholders and committees going forward in the design to understand what is that optimum space for the garden. I think at this point it's exciting in terms of developing a space specifically for that, as opposed to kind of coming in and making do. We're able to provide the storage, the shade, the layout that really is effective for that use to occur on that corner, with really nice access to the alley as well. And then that special elements, those art elements, the leaf ramada that's out there, those would all be relocated and find new homes that again engage that community lawn space. Centrally located is the playground area, and we'll dive into a little bit of conceptual development on that today. But the big thing to note there is it's consolidated around the existing trees in the existing ramada. Both of the ramadas in the park would get an aesthetic upgrade, looking at new roof structure, something that brings it into kind of current day in terms of its aesthetic and the quality, so new light fixtures as well. But what this does is really engages with that existing infrastructure, both the built and the ramadas, but then also the big wonderful trees, and allows the play to kind of occur within the shade of those trees, while being very visible from Roosevelt, McKemey, and also really 19th on the north-south access. So increased visibility, increased connections, and really taking advantage of the kind of the wonderful assets that are already out there. You can see the dog park and the baseball fields would kind of remain untouched. We'd salvage some of the existing tables and organize them around circulation routes to create these little nodes where you could just kind of meander and take a break and kind of pause within the park. Again, getting back to that community outreach #1, where that idea of walking and strolling was really, that #1 activity that people wanted to do in the park, is just be comfortable to be out there. And so if you can create these circulation routes, and it's a little tough to see in this, but with these little nodes to create those pause points, just create some opportunity for that activity to occur. Moving over to the west, F is a new restroom. So we're looking at a prefab solution to replace the current restroom. Obviously, the restroom was a very strong topic of conversation within the first meeting in terms of being something that needs improvement. And so this really serves this whole kind of baseball, dog park, future sport court area, as well as the playground. And the recreation center, I should say as well, would have a restroom component to it that would be open during recreation center hours. So if you're in any of these courts, or you're in any of these playgrounds or facilities within the park, you'd have two options, kind of a park restroom and F for using the recreation facility. And then we'll get into the details of the aquatics program in concept design a little bit later. So here you can see it as an aerial looking from basically Roosevelt and 19th, looking northwest. So here's where we're talking about the parking strategy in terms of kind of maximizing the edge space. So not necessarily bringing too much more asphalt into the park. We never really want to do that. But rather within some of the current geometries that exist today, make much more efficient parking layout. So the 45-degree stripes along Roosevelt turn 90, and so by giving up 5-10 feet of space, we can double the capacity. Same thing with the parking area to the south by just flipping and having a north base parking. We're able to double that capacity as well. And then the recreation center and the pool house really anchor kind of the center of the park and create, start to create that community hub idea where you have the aquatics to the south, the community lawn and the garden to the north. And we really think there's a nice relationship to the programming of this building as well. So the south would be programmed towards the pools and have those types of aquatic features, lockers, showers, those types of things. Well, the north side of this building is really about community space and providing those flexible spaces that, for classes, for lectures, those spill-out spaces that can utilize the community lawn, garden spaces, opportunities to, do the food packing and other events that already occur within the park. Those would all have a home within kind of this one central location. And then looking from the northwest back down to the east, so kind of on the opposite end of the park, you can see the baseball field, the dog park. This is really just showing, the impact that would be had if, the basketball court, potentially volleyball court could relocate in this area to further activate this kind of west meadow. As it is, it's a really nice just kind of flex, we call it like a Thanksgiving football throwing type space that occurs within this area. And you can see the garden anchor in the north. And then how the playground really becomes, there's almost in a way two hubs to this design. One within built form of a recreation center and pool combo that kind of feeds into all different spaces of the park. But then really celebrating play and bringing the story of Clark Park kind of through, thematically through playground and engaging the center. So you can see all kind of roads lead to this one central area. It really celebrates that activity and that community activity of play. Quick diagram on the parking. So you can see we've really almost, I think, doubled the amount of parking spots within the park without really impacting the green space all that much, with the concept of just utilizing what's there and making it much more efficient. I think the last thing we wanted to do is create any type of additional parking lot, but we do understand that with the new rec center, pool house, and program, there will be increased demand, so we do need to meet that. And then also from a circulation standpoint, we really felt it was good to engage all kind of sides of the park, understanding that bringing people off of Roosevelt and McKemey into kind of that center node is important, but also engaging down to 19th Street and understanding that the alley is used on a daily basis by walkers, joggers, et cetera, in that community. I think every time we've been out there, we've always been seen somebody kind of walking their dog along that path, and so we can engage that and bring them through the park and allow people to kind of take that loop and have this park become part of that daily experience of the people in the community. I think that's the goal there. So a little bit on the play area development. I will preface this section with, this is a kind of initial outreach on this kind of piece of the puzzle, and there will be more kind of opportunities to engage in terms of play development, types of features and age ranges, and all that good stuff. We'll be having that conversation with the neighborhood. Today is to kind of understanding how we're thinking it could stitch within the fabric of the existing park, and then also offer some initial kind of thematics to get reaction from you all if something's resonating, if it feels of the community, and so yeah, we always take every opportunity there is to get feedback on those types of things. So first and foremost, you can see how the new sidewalks come in and all engage kind of a central seating and play area. You could imagine picnic tables and all those types of activities, barbecue grills around the ramadas. So it would be a very family-friendly place. But what this kind of organic form does, and you can kind of see it carving out, is allows us to maneuver that play experience underneath the shade of those existing trees, and have easy access to the garden, easy access to the restrooms, both restrooms really, and then easy access down to aquatics and the rec center. Here you can see that visual connection from where that play would sit to occupy the center of that park, and where the aquatics and recreation center in the garden would sit. And this is just some inspirational imagery. We have two themes we'll kind of flip through. This one's showing this idea, obviously I think we've talked about this several times. There's artistic kind of feel to the neighborhood, obviously, as you just walk around and drive through it. And there's a colorfulness to it. There's a story of this garden. There's a story of community kind of drenched in that. And so one theme is there a way that we can kind of play that up and be very playful and expressive and colorful and in the play, and it's something that's celebrated and something that enhances that story of community in the garden. And so there's this just some inspiration imagery of how that garden theme could play through a play experience. And then the other is this a celebration of aquatics coming back into Clark Park, that it's becoming, with this pool, it becomes such an important community gathering space during those, especially during the warm months, year round, but especially during the warm months. And knowing that pool is serving that function as a great community gathering space to be play off of the forms and the kind of falliness of waves and water, and pull that into the playground, and perhaps it's the aquatics that pulls inspiration for this. So I think either way, it's understanding that there's an opportunity to link the park together in a more holistic way. So we'd love to, there's some comments on the online survey that'll be posted after this presentation. We can discuss at the end of this meeting as well about these different themes and what in general you think of playground themes, and then also some that go into more equipment types and items like that. Again, this is just an initial investigation of what play could look like at Clark. In terms of the aquatic development, again, taking that step backwards of where we were and what we heard, a lot of really good feedback on this portion of the design as well. At this phase, you can see that everything's kind of north-south oriented. This was before kind of that idea of the more east-west pool recreation center building was developed. And so now the pool has a little bit more of an east-west flow to it, but I think some principles and some themes from the commentary here played through. So on the family retreat, if you remember, the part of the discussion was that each one of these pools had a base program of, that was determined from the very first public meeting that included kind of a multi-generational swim experience. So lap lanes, general swimming, and then beach entry with splash toys. So you're engaging kind of that whole entire family. And then you're also engaging, the fitness side of aquatics as well. And so that's always been carried through. The family retreat looked at, can we do something kind of on deck splash pad to almost, in a way, lower the age engagement so you have more things for tots to do. In general, there were a lot of comments about the soft forms being very kind of pleasing, that it felt a little bit more resorty, which was a positive. There was an abundance of shade within this option that was a positive, and areas to picnic. And so in general, a lot of positive feedback for the family retreat. However, there was one kind of comment that reoccurred from those that use lap swimming, is that, in reality, having more defined lap lanes, more structured lap swimming was something that was desired. So from there, into the health and wellness option, where this one was looking at a warm water pool for therapeutic uses as kind of that additional element. Overall, like the geometry, like, more structure around lap swimming, again, like the shade, but was concerned about, warm water pool, especially within our climate, and, how to keep that, safe. And then within the destination, this one was fun because there were a lot of, there were some kids that actually took the survey too and had a chance to write on the overall response forms. And it was funny, whenever a kid wrote, you could tell because they loved the destination, because they're like, I want a water slide. And that was actually reinforced, throughout, as there was a general sense of liking expanding the age range up. So, longer term engagement with aquatics. There were a lot of stories with families saying, hey, if this was here, beyond just, 6 to 7 years old, I could imagine taking my family here when I have 13, 14-year-olds, playing on the water slide. And so that came through from that scheme very well. So I appreciate all the feedback in the comments on these. But what we were able to do really with the building shift and then with all these comments were to take the best of all of them to create a preferred concept, which continues with kind of the four kind of basic functions of this aquatic center: lap lanes for swimming, general swim, beach area with water play, a lot of picnic and shade. But does it and picks up the forms and responds to the comments of each of the positives and each of the critiques of the previous options. So with this one, you can see a very soft kind of radiating edge out from a beach entry that has nice engagement and kind of flow to the park. So you have the park kind of flowing into the aquatic facility. And then over on the right, the lap lanes become a little bit more structured and a bit more defined to facilitate that swimming. The other thing that we've done with this design, there were some comments both during the physically last meeting and then also within the comment responses about increasing flexibility of the lap swimming. If there's a possibility to expand it, it would be great to expand it. It just offers more potential, especially seasonal to different swim clubs, and then also just for more kind of fitness opportunities. And so within this concept, this lap swimming is actually increased from where we have 4 lanes of lap swimming to 5 10-foot or 6 8-foot lanes, which allows the City of Tempe Aquatics, the community, a bit more flexibility on how to use this space. So perhaps sometimes it's not delineated, and it's more kind of free swimming and aerobics classes, and then there may be times where it's kind of lapped out. But again, flexibility was kind of the key on that move. The other thing you can see on the south is the integration of the water slide. We like it on kind of the south and engaging the street in a way that it becomes a beacon or an icon, where you can see it from the corner at 19th and Roosevelt and say, kids are excited to get out of the car and run out and play here. I think that's the goal, and it's also extremely convenient for the kind of picnic and ramada and birthday area to have that within adjacency. The other items you can see is auxiliary or maintenance building for pool supplies and overall maintenance yards for the city. Again, the recreation, the pool house to the north. The pool house features the lockers, indoor changing rooms, showers, all those things would face out towards the aquatics, while the recreation would face north towards the park. So there's that nice duality of the building in terms of how it's serving those purposes, but per the community hub option, really trying to engage all those users in a centralized space. Here's some perspectives of that view and how that would work. Another comment from the community, tried to focus those artificial turf kind of picnic areas in very shady locations, making sure that we have enough cover on them so there's always a cool spot to sit. We've seen those within pool environments that really just become those great area rugs to lay out. Another note that I forgot to mention is from the family retreat, was as opposed to creating kind of a separate splash pad, there was a general interest in having those kind of ground level splash elements. We've actually integrated those into the beach entry itself. So right at this kind of shallow depth, call it a 0 water line, you can see a couple of these little white dots, and I think you'll see them in some of the eye levels. But the idea there is that that's a great area for that kind of toddler play to happen. And then as you go deeper, some of the splash elements can get a little bit bigger and perhaps a little bit more robust. You can see it from basically over 19th and Roosevelt with the maintenance building, parking, pool house. You can see how it bleeds kind of seamlessly into the park. That is very purposeful, that it's not this hard edge kind of feature. It's meant to kind of flow. Again, it relates to that idea of trying to pull everything, all the character of Clark kind of around the entire park, whether it's the garden, the play, the aquatics, they all can kind of seamlessly blend with each other. And here you can see it from the south and how that relates to some of the other park features with the play in the background, the garden, and the event lawn, and plenty of shade. Shade was obviously a very big comment that was reiterated several times. See some of the eye-level views. This is one that kind of shows those loungers with pop-up sprays. You could have smaller children kind of playing right on that water's edge. Similar if you were like on the bay. Again, trying to increase the engagement with various user groups, both up and down. The water slide. And this is a run-out slide, so it doesn't actually go into its own separate pool. It's actually all contained within that one piece. All right, and that wraps for kind of the presentation portion of it. These questions will all be on the online survey as they've been before. But I'll read through them right now, and then just to kind of start conversation and get you thinking about various comments and things we'll be looking at. The volleyball court and the basketball court relocation, we're going through a budgeting exercise currently. Like I mentioned, budgeting is always establishes priorities as we go through this. So this is really all about establishing priorities within that current master plan. If budgeting allows, how important are these various things for you in terms of relocation of the basketball court to open up that lawn, and as well as the volleyball court. In terms of play area, introducing some questions about theming and what you've seen today, and conceptually, that imagery. How are you responding to it? Is it positive? Is it off? Should the playground have a theme? Should it not? If so, would you prefer the garden theme, the wave theme, other? Those types of questions, more specifically getting into questions on what types of features you'd like to see there, what types of features you see your family with playing the most. I say family because I play with playground features when I'm out there too, so everybody. The climbers, spinners, rockers, swings, just again, this starts to develop. This is a little bit of that kind of like the first questionnaire that we did for the overall park. This helps to develop kind of that baseline of what you'd like to see within these areas, and it helps us build that catalog of equipment that ultimately makes it out there. And then aquatics, again, this is a big thank you. The feedback has been tremendous on all the different options that we've shown. That goes throughout the entire project. And really today's kind of presentation on where the concept plan is, where the aquatics are, is a moment in time based on previous feedback and based on ongoing conversations with the city and all the other factors that we've talked about. We always appreciate further comment and further feedback as we continue to progress things forward. So would love to hear from you. And with that, Shauna, I would say we are good to kind of just open up general discussion. I will go up to the kind of general master plan as a start point, and then we can open it up for anybody that may have any comments or questions.
Thank you, Brandon. So if you want to ask a question, you can place it in the chat, or I see we already have some hands raised, so I'll go ahead and unmute you and call on you. But then also feel free to type them in. So hold on one second, Larry, and I'll get to you. Okay, Larry, you want to ask your question?
Sure. So can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, great. All right. So first, I just want to thank you for having this meeting and for doing this. I can't say enough how excited I am overall for this project, for the pool, and for the park. I think this is going to be a really great thing for the neighborhood. So overall, I like it. I think it's kind of cool. If you had to ask me, if you had to pick one thing that's the most important thing overall, to me personally, I would say it would be connectivity. I really feel like that's the one thing currently that the park lacks. There really is no connectivity between the amenities, and everything feels kind of compartmentalized. And I think that this design really nails that as far as making everything feel connected with the pathways, interconnecting and everything. I think this is really good. With that said, I think there's just one small area of concern that I have, and that would be the location of the rec center or the pool house. I feel like that might kind of chop off the pool a little bit from like the long area from the other things, and I would suggest that this is something that's possible, of maybe just putting that on the south side of the pool, so it would run adjacent to the parking lot. And I think that would kind of open up the pool to like the community lawn and just make it feel more open, so it's looking out towards the lawn as opposed to looking out towards a building. So that would be one thing. And then another question I had, I know in some of the previous renderings, on the north side there was some showing the design of the alley being converted to like a multi-use path. And I'm not seeing that in this design. I'm wondering if that's something that's still in the cards. I think it would tie in really nicely with the garden if that's something that's still doable. That's all I had. But thank you again for doing this, and overall, I'm really impressed.
Perfect. Thanks, Larry. Appreciate the comments. Yeah, the alley just got cut off on this. Like I mentioned, it's already kind of used as a multi-use path, so you know, potentially we could just look at a ground treatment there. In terms of the recreation center and pool house location, just as a background on that, because it has kind of flipped around to a lot of different locations, and you know, what we were really looking at more so than kind of the aquatics connection to the park, and really the aquatics connection to the park filters out to the west and around. But knowing that that aquatics area has some seasonality to it, the pool house function may have some seasonality to it, but the recreation center is really this year-round gem, right? So in the summer you have this wonderful air-conditioned, you know, community spaces. In the winter you have an opportunity to completely open that thing to the park. We really look to value the recreation center connection to the park. And so having this run east-west and then having the potential to have that great community lawn as kind of a central feature. And so, you know, whether it's, like I mentioned previously, whether it's, you know, markets, or if it's movie lawn, or if it's lectures, those types of things, we tried to make sure that that recreation center had an engagement to the open space. And so that's kind of what led to this this location of the building.
Okay, next question, Brandon, is will there be any fitness areas throughout the park?
Yes, we are looking at that and integrating it within play. The nodes that you kind of see within the yellow, I think right now are placeholders with picnic tables. But we like the idea of engaging the circulation with you know, just that you see those little fitness nodes around. If you're doing a loop in the morning, yes, yeah, we're definitely looking into that, and that's what these little nodes are starting to hint at, how they would be engaged with some of the different circulation paths.
Okay, next question, is there a timeline when the project will kick off and start, and when is anticipated completion?
Sean, would you like to answer that one?
Sure. So at this point, Brandon and his team will be finishing up the concepts, and then we would anticipate starting the design, and by that I mean the construction documents, the 30, 60, 90, you know, looking at engineering, getting into the nuts and bolts of that next year, which would be starting July 1, running through June 2022, and then again anticipating construction based on those construction documents. Is, you know, how long does that take? We're also looking at trying to lessen the impact during the growing season for the garden and for the rest of the park. So taking into consideration there, we're could be anywhere from a year to 18 months once we do get started that following fiscal year, which would be 22, July of 22, if I'm not mistaken. So somewhere 23, 24. Again, I wish I could dial that in a little bit more for you, but within a year we'll be able to dial that in a lot better and provide a more accurate timeline.
And we will keep the neighborhood updated as we move along in the progress, as well as our project website. And the next question is, will the fence still remain around the baseball field, and how wide will the sidewalks be?
Yes, the fence will still remain around the baseball field, so that function of the fence will remain. The sidewalks range between 6 feet and I believe it's 8 or 10 feet is the long cross connect. And the reason that one's a little bit wider, one, it just creates kind of a nice pedestrian thoroughfare, but two, it allows maintenance access east-west, kind of cutting through the park. But in general, 6 feet for all the walks. Will
Does
the
anyone
ball
else?
field be,
ball field?
will the ball field be out of service during construction? Do not believe so. As Sean mentioned, we'll know a bit more as we get further along in the process and get a contractor involved. But at this point in time, I see no reason why the ball field would be taken offline.
So we do still have time. If anyone has any other questions, feel free to pop them in the chat or raise your hand.
I also wanted just to let you know, these will be, Shauna has these recorded. They'll live on the website, and you can also still make comments there too. So if something occurs to you a little later, please drop back on and let us know.
And the comment form is already available online. I put in the chat, I put the website that you can go to it to, and so you can also give us any written comments you'd like there, or if something comes to you later, or share it with your neighbors. Okay, not seeing any more, then we just thank you so much for your time. We will be having another meeting at 6 p.m. tonight, so if you know of anyone that missed this noon meeting, please let them know. They're welcome to join us then.